Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hansen and Pat McLean would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hansen.
And Pat McLean, thanks for joining us.
All right, glad you are taking some time out of your day to listen to us. We're both financial advisors and enjoy doing our podcast here and a radio program to help you with your finances. So
yes,
and we've talked about this in the past. We'll take some calls here as we get going, but before we do that, commercial property. So there's certain assets. The thing about like publicly traded assets, like stocks, bonds of large companies, things that are publicly traded, where there's an ongoing market.
You know the value.
You know the value on a daily basis. So if a company's something happens in a company, the company is no longer, the future earnings don't look as bright as they once had. The value, people know it immediately, and the value of that stock drops.
Well, mostly.
Fair.
Because there's meme stocks and stocks like MoviePass that are hyped to, and no one really knows the value. Just people hyping things up.
That's true. Fair enough. Over the long term, though, it all washes out.
That's right. And oftentimes money washes away with those meme stocks.
That's right. With non-traded assets, things like commercial property, and we can also say the same things that maybe some private equity, that sort of stuff. But let's just focus on commercial property for a moment. Commercial property, you look at the downtowns of companies, or those high rises, or any office building. They are owned. If they're small, they might be owned by a family or a few families come together and buy them. If they're medium size or larger, odds are they're owned by a pension plan, an insurance company,
real estate investment trust,
a REIT, yeah, and a
government of
yep,
not only a U.S. government, but oftentimes foreign governments will own commercial properties.
And unlike a mortgage on a house, when you buy a house, you can get a 30-year mortgage with a fixed rate for 30 years. Most commercial properties, you get a fixed rate for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. Not for the life, not in 20, 30 years.
They sunset.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these loans
they call them coming due.
Have come due. And some of the creditors have kind of extend and pretend, as they say in the lending business.
Kick the can.
Yeah. And they can only kick the can for so long till suddenly
you're like, we're gonna have to have a meeting. So when they extend and pretend, they just go back to the borrower and say, hey, how's it going? And by the way, if you own one of these properties, you have to report to the lender. Most lenders require at least once a year all your financials, what your vacancies look like.
It's not like when you buy a house, right? You get the mortgage and then
you're done.
Yeah.
Right?
The mortgage company doesn't say, hey, is your income still there? Hey, is any damages with your house? Have you done any upgrade?
And they have the ability to call a loan if it goes into a certain occupancy drops less than 60%, or revenue drops to X, right?
Or loan to value, the property value falls.
LTV, yes.
And they're like, well, you need to throw in some more cash. You need to into this deal because
yes,
it's called down the loan.
A capital call on a commercial real estate.
Loan, yeah.
Yes, in order to keep you in qualification. So we're seeing it.
It's a slow melt, but
and quite frankly, you read about this. I've listened to podcasts about converting these commercial, office buildings into residential. Oftentimes the problem is the actually footprints and the codes don't go along. So the code in many cities is this: any room that is occupied or slept in needs to actually have a window, right? Well, if you're in an office building, it means that every bedrooms can only be 8 feet wide and 50 feet long with a window on the end, right? It just doesn't convert. And then the plumbing and the electrical behind it, most certainly the plumbing, the electrical is much easier to deal with, but replumbing.
And there's no balcony and most of the windows don't open.
That's right. It goes on and on and on. It's so oftentimes it's actually easier to actually build a new building than to rehab.
I mean, some of these commercial properties are down. The buildings are down 60%, 70%, and 80%.
And we've started to see it in some of these REITs. Well, the first thing they do is they stop the distributions or redemptions. So they're like, first thing they do is like, no more income's going out to any of the shareholders that invested in the real estate investment trust. And then the second thing is, oh, by the way, you're not allowed to redeem your shares, which means you can't sell them back to us, right? That's a non-traded REIT versus a REIT that's traded. A REIT that's traded, you can sell to someone else, which is, if you've listened to the show at all, you know how we feel about non-traded REITs.
We're not big fans.
Yes, that'd be an understatement.
I had lunch this week with it's a private fund of sorts that it's commercial credit is what they do, right? It's loans to different buildings and where was I going with this one? I might just lost my train of thought.
Do they do real estate or businesses?
No, both, but primarily real estate. And I don't even remember where I was going.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I'm glad. What'd you have for lunch? Come on, Scott. Let's try to keep it together. We only have to do this for an hour a week. 1 hour a week. We need to get in front of these microphones and talk. And how far into the show are we? 7 minutes? 8 minutes?
I lost my train of thought, and I don't remember what it was.
All right.
Obviously, it wasn't that important.
Okay, well, let's just try to keep it together for the rest of the program.
But I do wonder what kind of spillover. Are we going to see any spillover into the broad economy with this?
Well, why don't we ask China?
Oh my gosh!
Right? But fortunately, the U.S. economy is
a very different situation.
That's right.
China. I mean, what happened with China? If you're in China as a worker and you wanted to invest in something,
it was real estate.
It was a high-rise condo, apartment, whatever, right?
Yes.
That's what everyone was invested in, and they were building. These companies were building new cities. People were buying these sight unseen, with no plans to live in them. Just plans to flip it and sell to the high.
At some point in time.
Yes.
Yeah. A big old, like a big pyramid.
Yeah.
So, but back to the real estate, Scott. So we've got forces that are actually happening in the United States that I don't think anyone would have predicted. Retail, right, is being displaced by online delivery, and not just Amazon, by the way. Not just Amazon. Retailers are doing it to themselves. Target is making themselves obsolete. Walmart is trying to make themselves obsolete, right? They see where Amazon's gone and they're like, we have to be there, right? And then the other thing is that this work from home it's here to stay, right? It is here to stay. And you say, well, is it really? Yes, it is. There is my guess it's probably 10
not full-time work from home.
But there's a lot of jobs that are going to be full-time work from home, right? That used to be done in an office, right?
Okay, yeah, a lot of people still working from home.
Right? And then
but for most people they'll come in sometime.
They'll come in sometime. So what it does is it moves the footprint of the building from, 10,000 square feet to 7,000 square feet or 6,000 square feet just by utilization of that space.
That's exactly right. It's an interesting.
Which is, look, again and again and again, the best portfolio is a
highly diversified.
Right?
Right.
Because I know real estate guys and they live and die by real estate. They're like, why would you invest in anything else but real estate? I'm like, well, there's lots of reasons, right? Because every investment, every asset class has its day in the sun
That's right.
and a day in the rain. And you don't know when that's going to come. And the idea for you as an investor is to live through all those cycles. So again, if you look at your portfolio, you should be unhappy with about a third of your holdings at any point in time.
Sometimes everything's up, but usually not.
That's right.
And when it is, it's very short term.
Yeah. And so if you're unhappy with a third of the portfolio, the natural tendency is let's get rid of the things that are doing poorly. Odds are those things that are doing poorly,
if they were well researched to begin with and are in your portfolio for a reason.
Got it. Oh, is that apt to do? Watched a documentary. I love documentaries and historical books and business. A great documentary that just came out was called Movie Pass. It was about
on the Movie Pass thing. What happened to that? They went bankrupt?
Oh, they never made a dime. But
I didn't know how they were going to make a dime. Was it you pay $20 a month and you get?
And they were buying
$9.95
and you could go see as many movies as you wanted
for $10
for $10 a month. And they were buying retail. They sent out debit cards.
What was the business model behind it?
They were going to get to scale.
And then what?
Well, that was the problem. No one really. Then they were going to sell. They were going to sell data to movie studios. I'm thinking, well, the people that would go to a movie for $10 a month, as many as they wanted, and I thought it was hysterical, Scott. This one guy says, "Look, because I'm kind of a busy guy, so I'd actually go to the theater on Monday and watch the first half of the movie, and then I'd come back on Tuesday and watch the second half of the movie at the movie theater." Like,
that's a little weird.
Yeah, but if it's free to get in. Anyway, worth a watch. And the reason it's worth a watch is that stock went crazy. And the hype around it at the beginning was unbelievable until the analysts started questioning the business model. Like, how are you going to make money?
And as an investor, if you want to have a small portion of your portfolio to trade in certain things or take a chance on something, fine, but understand what it is. It's a speculative piece of your portfolio, and it should be money that you can afford to lose. You certainly don't want to be looking at your life savings and betting it on, or what happens oftentimes is people are a little behind where they need to be, and they think they need to catch up. I need to get a high return, so I've got enough money for my retirement. And then
they blow themselves up.
Yeah, on
completely
like that. Movie Pass. Well, I can't wait to watch the movie on Movie
Pass.
Anyway, let's go to some calls. To join us, we always love taking callers. You can send us an email, questions@moneymatters.com. Let us know what your question's about. We can schedule a time to take your call. Again, questions@moneymatters.com. Or our number's 833-99-WORTH. We're talking with Willie. Willie, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, glad you joined us.
Thanks. So my wife and I are 60 years old, and we decided to retire early a few years ago. Financially, we're in good shape. We have no debt, and our 4 children are no longer officially dependents.
As my dad used to call them self-feeders.
Yeah. So now we're just trying to optimize our financial accounts. And here's kind of what we're doing. So I'm maxing out HSA contributions each year. My wife has Parkinson's, so we'll probably end up using most of this. And then I think we can also use.
Aren't you retired?
So are you on a retiree medical? How are you retired and still receiving medical insurance?
I'm getting it through the Obamacare.
Okay,
got it.
Yeah, and so that's kind of one of my bigger questions that I thought I'd just give you a little bit of background on some of the other accounts first here. So I think I can use my HSA contribution to pay Medicare premiums in the future. I'm not eligible for them now. But
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that either.
Yeah, I think I read that, but I'm not 100% sure. It's a few years away, so I'm not.
Okay.
I mean, my view would be that and I maximize my HSA every year, and I don't spend it, and it's invested. My plan is it's all those other expenses. Medicare is relatively small.
Okay, so keep going.
All right, and so we have a joint account, which I highly doubt we'll end up using most of this. So I have a large portion of that, 45% of that account is in long-term capital gains right now. So basically, we think we'll be able to hold off till we get the step-up basis when my spouse or me or both of us die, getting some portion of the step-up basis for it.
Are these individual stocks?
Yeah, it's mostly in an ETF.
Okay.
That's different.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
The reason I asked that, like, if you said no, there's 5 different stocks, I'd probably say you need to do some analysis. I mean, sometimes it makes sense to sell and pay the tax rather than hold an investment that's not a great investment just because you're trying to defer the tax.
But these are ETFs, so right?
Yeah, and it's been a great investment, and
Okay.
I don't think we'll end up using it. I also have about 15% of that account is in an MLP, which defers taxes on it anyway.
Okay.
Then I have a relatively small beneficiary IRA where we donate about 15% of that to charities each year, but the rest of that is basically my not earned income, but income for the year. Then I have a Roth IRA, which recommend Roth IRAs to everyone. And we just basically have that set aside for, if we end up buying a large retirement home somewhere.
Okay.
How much is in your joint account?
The joint account's about $2.4 million.
And how much is in your Roth?
1.9.
Okay.
Wow. And you have a regular IRA, a 401k as well?
So I have a traditional IRA, and that's about 1.5 million.
Okay. And what's your question for us?
Well, so I'm trying to optimize, make sure I'm doing things right. So with the Obamacare that I have, I'm basically getting.
We had a call just like this last week, Pat.
I know.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm getting about a $20,000 premium tax credits and cost sharing reduction subsidies.
Yes. Okay.
Every year.
Wait, for the rest of the listeners, the technical name is the Affordable Care Act, but goes by oftentimes by the name Obamacare. But
yeah, right. But I have a pretty low income right now. Really, my only income is my joint account, the interest dividend.
Yeah, and then the inherited IRA,
the beneficiary IRA.
Okay.
I can keep it pretty much under $50,000, which puts me.
Yeah, as long as you don't exceed what is 138% of the poverty. So, what's your question for us?
Well, I mean, am I right in not trying to convert?
That's right.
More traditional IRA.
That's correct.
Roth.
That's correct. Do not.
And then.
Yeah, stay on that ACA as long as you can.
It's $20,000 in free money.
Yes, correct. And by the way, we had a caller like this last week. You have between the ages of 65 and 75 to convert as much as you want from IRA to Roth IRA based upon your needs. So you want to stay exactly where you're at today. You're doing it right. Perfect.
Okay, and then I don't know enough about the Medicare premiums, but that's also based on your income. So if I would convert, then I would have a higher premium to pay.
Yeah, but
I don't think you're going to be at that income level to where you're going to pay a Medicare surtax.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not going to discuss a Medicare surtax 5 years from now. Just not going to do it. In fact, listen, if there's more people like you taking advantage of the Affordable Care Act, right? Because we do it all the time with our clients.
Yeah.
You're worth, right on paper here, what you just showed us for your assets, it's over $7 million, almost $7 million. My guess is there's $2 million laying around in other stuff that we don't know about. There's no way in the world that you should be qualifying for the Affordable Care Act.
I know, but that's how they structure
I understand,
that.
Scott, but the reality is that loophole will close.
Right.
Oh, eventually, yeah.
Well, I'm going to take advantage of it.
No, understand as you should. I
would not. So let's assume you're 65 today. The Medicare surtax, it hits you at about what, 180,000 or something like that.
You're probably below that.
Even if you start doing conversions, and then you just run the numbers, and that's 5 years out. You just run the numbers and say, okay, if I convert X dollars, what's it going to mean as far as my taxes? Will this push me into Medicare surtax? How much is that? And then does it make?
I'm not even going to. Not going to discuss it. I just got 5 years from now, the Medicare surtax. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I'm not going to borrow trouble. Today, you're doing the right thing. Continue on. Any other?
Well, you don't have that attitude in other areas of the tax law.
The Medicare surtax is a percentage of this guy. What is it, right? I'm gonna pick up pennies and ignore dollars for the Medicare surtax.
Yes. Which means some people pay $100 roughly a month for Medicare. Some people pay $500 a month.
That's right.
It's means tested.
But I said this to a client. He said, "Well, I'm tired of paying this Medicare surtax." I said, "I can lower your income. Do you want to live on less?" He said, "No." I said, "Okay, well then pay the Medicare surtax. What do you want? You can't have both. If you're this net worth and you want to continue traveling first class, then we're going to have to distribute income to you and you're going to have to pay the Medicare surtax. Or alternatively, I could lower your income. You can't travel at all, but you won't have to pay the Medicare surtax.
You tell me what you want.
What do you want?" And they said,
"This is the conversation you had with someone?"
Yes.
Yeah, just like that?
Yes, just exactly like that. And they said, "Pat, we're good paying the Medicare surtax." So this is exactly, Willie, let's not forget the objective of the dollars, right? The objective of the dollars is not to avoid all taxes at all costs.
That's right.
The objective of the dollars is to actually support a lifestyle in which you can afford and can live indefinitely. That's why we're not going to discuss the Medicare surtax. Do you have any other questions for us before we leave here?
Well, so kind of a side question. So because my premium is so low with that, I think I can keep my daughter, who's 22, on it until she's 25.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure of that, but I don't know if that's something that's.
Listen, we do it.
Sounds like the smart thing to do.
I do it with my own children, who
and they're on their plan until you're 26.
Keep them on the plan, my work plan, until as long as we possibly can, unless they have insurance through somewhere else that's less expensive.
Yeah, you just got to.
Right.
You just got to make sure that the plan allows for it.
If she went on ACA, it might even be
better.
$6 a month. Might even be better. I don't know. So you'd have to
take a look at that.
So
appreciate the call.
Appreciate. Isn't that interesting? Twice last week there was someone who's also had several $1 million.
About the same age.
Right. That was on.
That's why my point. Look, at some point.
I mean, look, we have people come to us and they say, "I'm 61 years old. I want to retire. What are my options?" That's one of them. And we say, "Here's how you can get there's a way to get your income down."
But this isn't going to stay this way forever. Just flat out. Right? It's like I sat with these clients the other day and I said, "Look, this is why we're doing this for the step up in basis." And I said, "Oh, by the way, it might be in the next 3, 5, 10 years that I come back and give you a completely different set of rules because
there's a good chance for that particularly."
Oh, makes no sense.
The stepped up basis of death makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Yeah. It would have been an easy one for Congress to shove through there.
Yeah. And generate quite a bit of tax off that.
Yeah.
Dead people very rarely complain.
Well, it'd be interesting. There would be people that would make changes to their portfolio. Oh, they would probably increase current. If they got rid of not that I'm proposing,
Scott.
That's what
this is. I was working in the yard yesterday, and this is working on some sprinklers, and this is exactly what I thought about. I stole your thunder. Why do you get a step up in basis when you die? Why don't we say that you can get a step up in basis on anyone after the age of 80?
To get the tax.
To create tax. Right? It wouldn't create any tax because it would just pretend like you died, and the step up a basis, anyone could sell it.
It would generate revenue because if that happened, let's just assume go down. If suddenly tomorrow Congress passes says step up basis at death or one with first spouse reaches age 80, you've got clients that there are certain assets that you said don't do anything about this, wait till death. Now you'd say, hey, we're going to have to pay the tax anytime, but let's look at, on this silly example we're looking at, this step up in basis occurs because you hit some magical number.
That's right.
You would say, let's sell that asset now
and then
generate the tax.
But it wouldn't generate tax because it received a step up in basis. But it would possibly generate a movement in the economy where actually an asset is unlocked.
There we go.
And so my thought was,
when you get elected into Congress.
But
Pat,
my thought was, why was it a death?
Why have it at all?
Well, that was the first question. So
for that matter, why have a capital gain tax? And if you're going to have it, it'll have it at least indexed with inflation.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next calls.
I mean, you want to talk about a tax that's just a degradation of assets, a capital gain where there's not even a. Let's say you bought a commercial property, and it went up 3.5% a year over a 20-year period, same rate as inflation. You broke even.
Yeah.
But you have to pay less capital gain. Anyway, let's talk.
We're not going to rewrite tax law here on this podcast.
Not today, anyway. Let's talk here with Teresa. Teresa, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
It concerns tax efficiency. I have about $1 million in a SEP IRA and about $2.5 million combined between two brokerage accounts. And my question is, how should each account be invested to minimize my annual tax liability?
Oh, how old are you?
I'm 80 years old.
And what other assets are there in the household?
We have a primary residence, about $1.1 million, a vacation home, about $500,000. I have the SEP IRA account, about $1 million.
Okay, and then
a Roth IRA, about $136,000. One brokerage, which is a trust account, $1.1 million, and then a personal brokerage account, $1.3 million.
And why do you have the any other assets?
I have savings of about $250,000 and checking about $45,000.
And why do you have the brokerage in some of it in trust and some of it in individual account? Was that inherited money, or what's the differentiation between the two?
The individual brokerage account was inherited from when my mother passed.
Okay. Have you and what are you living on every year? How much income are you living on?
Well, I have Social Security of $3,644, and I have to take my RMD each year.
And any other income that you're living on?
No.
You're not taking any money from the brokerage account and spending it?
No.
And you're married?
I'm a widow.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
And for taxes and insurance and stuff like that for the house, that you're covering that with your Social Security?
My Social Security and the RMD.
And when your spouse passed away,
how long ago was that?
How long ago was that?
A little more than a year ago.
And
sorry.
And how long were you married?
55 years.
Okay. Wow. So, and why do you have the brokerage account split between a personal account and a trust? Are there different beneficiaries on each one of those?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So let's start from the beginning. Was the portfolio rebalanced? Who's managing this portfolio for you?
I am.
Okay, so what happened is when your husband passed away, you should have rebalanced that portfolio completely because it received a full step up in basis, and with that, what would have happened is you would have actually put any thing that didn't distribute a dividend or interest in that brokerage, and then put the bonds in the SEP IRA, and that was the perfect time. And there's still time. But that would have been the ideal time. How many children do you have, or how many beneficiaries are there to that trust?
My son.
One son. Are there any charities named as a beneficiary of your estate?
After my son, it's my daughter-in-law, and then my grandchildren, and then a local charity.
Okay, so after them, so that's a contingent, essentially a contingent beneficiary. So, yes. How old is your son?
He's in his 50s.
Have you gifted him any money?
In the past, yes.
Have you done it
recently? Gifted him money to help them with buying a home.
Great.
Okay.
And when your husband passed away, I'm assuming there wasn't a separate trust created at that time, a bypass trust?
No bypass trust.
Okay, so what was your question for us?
It seems like I'm paying a lot of taxes, and my question is, would I be better invested in primarily bonds in the SEP IRA and then equities in the trust account?
Yes, all things being equal, yes.
Yes, and which is kind of what I just said about non-dividend or interest paying in the brokerage account. What is your portfolio consist of? How much stock and how much bond is a percentage between the SEP IRA and the brokerage accounts?
Overall, and there's 4 accounts, U.S. large cap 30%, U.S. small cap 8%, international 5%, fixed income 9%, cash and cash investments 48%.
Wow. Okay. So I would say that you're.
Can I ask another question? Were you the primary partner in your marriage that managed the assets?
No.
Okay.
It was a joint effort, and my husband was very aggressive in his investments, and I was very conservative in mine.
So this is essentially what happens is you want all the bond and cash in the IRAs, just as you said, and as much in the brokerage account of non-dividend or interest paying. So things that are going to for capital gain. You need to dig in. You need to push that brokerage account, individual brokerage account that you inherited money into that trust. There's no benefit in keeping it separate. Then you need to go through each one of the holdings and look at the cost basis based upon the date of death of your husband when you receive the step up in basis. And then you want to look to see what gains you should be harvesting and losses you should be harvesting. And then, quite frankly, if you were sitting in my office, that's just kind of like the basics. This is just where you start. But the bigger conversation would be, I would ask you,
what's the purpose of these dollars?
Right? And should your son be involved in the discussion as to how it should be managed? I don't know what your relationship is with like your son. And is there any way we could send you more money that you would actually spend and enjoy? Right?
Okay.
So the first thing I would ask is, why are you living on just your RMDs and Social Security? Are you not doing things that you would do if you had more money?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Like, so Teresa,
that is yes.
Like, I mean, you were married to your husband. You said, was it
55 years?
55 years.
Yeah,
55 years.
55 years, right? And it's been just over a year. My guess is the fog is somewhat lifting, but not quite. You're trying to still put, like, what my future is now, right? It's been a year now. I think now's the time to start really thinking, like, what would Teresa like at this stage? And you've got, $5-6 million saved. That's a lot of money. There's no way you can spend it if you tried.
And Teresa, when you and your husband got married at the young age of, actually back then it wasn't young to get married, but you got married when you were 25.
I was 22 and he was 23.
Okay. All right.
What?
You, how much money did you guys have when you got married?
My husband borrowed $200 from his mother for a honeymoon.
There we go. Right? So you and your husband have done quite well, right? And you've saved, and it's easy for me to say, we're going to send you more money and you're going to spend it, because that's not part of your mindset.
That's
right?
why you have these dollars.
That's why you have these dollars. But you need the permission to say, it's okay. It's all right if I take out another $3,000-$5,000 a month and spend it. Would I go on a vacation with my friends? Are there places that I would not,
or whatever it is that you
go
want
to dinner, do whatever, right? So, but one of the things is, You asked the question about the tax efficiency. Most certainly, this is easy. I mean, this is not a big deal, right? But you've got to go through and do the work, and you may or may not be capable of doing it because it's a little bit more advanced than just picking an investment.
I mean, at this stage, frankly, you would be you need to get a financial advisor at some point in time.
Look, when I'm 80 years old, I plan on having a financial advisor, right?
Yes.
I do it myself now, and I'm 61. But by the time I think I'm probably 75, I will have a professional doing it for me because I want this money to.
Yeah, it is. Well, you're not going to be here forever.
That's right. And statistically speaking, I will. Not that my wife, she understands this thing perfectly well. The other thing is you should be looking at gifting some of these dollars to your son,
too.
And actually funding grandchildren's 529 plans.
That's what I mean. If your plan is to leave it at when you pass, I wouldn't wait.
I would not wait. I would not wait. So the tax efficient, why you called, your question was, is there a way to make this much more tax efficient? Yes. Easy.
Any equity should be outside of your retirement accounts.
Every equity should be outside your retirement account, right? And by the way, you said your husband was much more aggressive and you were much more conservative. Have you gotten more conservative since your husband passed away?
Probably, yes.
Okay. I don't know whether that was the right call or not, but
it doesn't.
It doesn't really matter.
No.
You could have this all in cash and you'll do fine. You could have it all in equities and you'll do fine.
That's right.
It's whatever you're most comfortable with. But you've got, and I assume the will and trust, the trust is up to date? Your living trust is up to date?
No, I decided early on after he passed that I wasn't going to do anything until a year.
Yep, great.
That's the right call.
Yep, totally agree with you.
Wait till the fog clears. So you need professional, not someone from the bank that's going to sell you an annuity.
Get a good financial advisor, independent financial
and
advisor.
Have your son involved in the process. Does your son know what you're worth?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have your son.
It's been very helpful as far as finances, yes.
Perfect. Have your son involved in every step of the process.
Yep.
Every step of the process, including meeting with the financial advisors, whether remotely or in person. So appreciate the call,
Teresa. Thank you. I'm glad you called. We're heading to Montana talking with Chuck. Chuck, you're with Allworth's Money. I'm sorry, Clint. Clint, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hello.
Hey, Clint.
I'm recently retired. Got $3 million in investable assets, and I've decided to hire a financial advisor. My question revolves around how to pay for the advice, flat fee or the percentage basis. Flat fee is the obvious choice dollars wise, but I just don't know. I'd like to get your thoughts.
Well,
on that.
You have an advisor now?
No, I'm in the process of hiring one.
Got it.
So I'll tell you how we operate. Just then that gives you your. I think it would answer your question. So we have a couple different ways that we work here. One is we do a fee for a plan. So somebody just wants a financial plan.
Just a one-off. Here you go. Here's what your portfolio should look like. Go do it yourself.
And but there's so much more to the planning. So that's just one little piece of the plan. And it's a flat fee, and then.
But we're not moving the money around for them. We're telling them where it should go, and it's a flat fee financial plan.
Not managing it, not managing for tax efficiency, none of that stuff. We're just doing a plan, and that's a flat fee for that. But the vast majority of our clients hire us. We do the financial planning, and we manage the money on an ongoing basis and guide them. And we charge an assets under management fee.
But the third is that you can engage us to do a financial plan for you every year, and then we will give you that financial plan, and we don't manage the assets. The reality is most of those clients convert to an assets under management fee.
Almost all do.
Almost all of them do. So, and the reason they do it is they're kind of trying us on. They're like, well, I'm not quite comfortable turning all my money over to you, even though it's held at a third-party custodian and we manage it. So it's them kind of testing the water. So
you can hire and say, I just would like to pay for a financial plan. And then if you choose to hire them to manage your money, oftentimes they'll waive that financial planning fee.
Yeah. So you're going to end up with an assets under management fee regardless of how you start. That's the reality. You want someone to actually.
Okay, I understand.
And part of that,
however,
and to Pat's point, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Clint. You were stating, Clint.
I was going to say the flat fee arrangement. I'm not talking about a flat fee for a financial plan. I'm talking about a flat annual fee in order to do everything that you're describing that you guys do, but you charge a percentage of the assets under management. The flat fee is considerably less at my level of the assets than a percentage.
And they'll manage the money?
Yeah, there's a couple models.
Much less.
Correct. And that is an alternative.
If that advisor is going to give you the same service, then I 100% would pay the flat fee.
Yeah.
Assuming they're managing the money the same.
But there's only a couple models like that exist so far nationally. But yeah, if you're comfortable with that, if you're going to you decide if you're going to get what you pay for. Right. But both of those are asset under management.
Right. The trend seems to be.
Most experienced advisors that are good, they charge a premium fee, and they don't discount from that premium fee because they believe what they do is worth every penny.
But there are a couple flat fee out there. I can't really speak to them. That it's relatively new into the industry, so I don't know what it looks like or the quality of the advice. But historically, it's been an asset.
And I actually think some of those models are good for young people that don't have much in assets yet and just need a little financial planning guidance.
That's true. You want someone that's managing your $3 million to get paid a little bit more than someone that you're going to pay more than someone that's managing $30,000.
I don't, Clint. I wouldn't be shopping advisors
However,
okay, keep going. Clint?
I wouldn't be shopping from advisors based upon who's going to be the cheapest. If I was having heart surgery, I wouldn't be shopping for a heart surgeon based on who's going to be the least expensive. I would want the best damn heart surgeon out there. And so I think you need to be thinking about those things along with it. That's what I would, if I were you in Montana, I would find the best advice you can find. That's what I would do. And however they want to charge you.
Right. And I can do that for, right. But at my level, 2% of $3 million.
Oh, no one's charging you 3%. Who said 2%? Who said 2%? No, $3 million, you're down to probably 0.75%. Who said 2%?
Who wants to charge you 2%?
So your company would charge 3/4 of?
Yeah, it'd be somewhere around 3/4.
It might be a little bit more than that, Pat.
Yeah,
I don't know when the last time you actually looked at a fee
out there.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be 2%. Holy
2%.
smokes, I'd manage your money personally for 2%.
Okay.
Come on, call me. I'll give you my cell number.
Okay. My question.
You should be paying.
My question. Okay, are you saying that the total fee is 0.75%, or it's 0.75% once you get to that certain? It's
no, often, so it's
over that amount.
Most firms have a tiered type service, and Pat, it might be slightly more. Maybe it's 0.9.
Okay, it could be there. Yeah,
it's less than one.
It's certainly less than one at $3 million, right? So they tier. So on the first 250,000, it's a higher. Under the next 500,000, it's lower. It tiers down. But any advisor, if you came to him and said, manage this $3 million, they will actually be able to tell you what the overall fee is. When you're looking at a fee schedule, I think you're looking at the first tier and not the overall cost.
You should be paying 1% or slightly less.
Yes.
I understand that. My question is, okay. So 1% versus a flat fee. I get it. Okay, thanks, fellas.
Okay, no worries. Appreciate it. Yeah, but by the way, if you're willing to pay 2% on $3 million, I'll give you my cell number.
Come on. You shouldn't go find the most expensive advisor, but it's clearly an advisor that their compensation is within the range of most other advisors.
That's right.
Because
it's a competitive business.
Otherwise, if someone's really good, why would they discount and be half the prices of the neighbor?
Yes.
It's not charity. You have $3 million. They're not providing charity at this point. So, well, hey everyone, we got kind of an interesting guest today. We don't always do these things because we mostly take calls. But Dave Ahern, he's got a podcast that's really designed for kind of newer investors, younger investors, kind of some of the more basics. And we thought it'd be good to have them on, not because maybe our listeners, maybe you might not need this, but we all have people in our lives. We have kids, that sort of thing that can benefit from some of the advice that they do on their podcast. So we thought we'd have Dave join us for us. Dave, welcome to Allworth Money Matters.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah, what's the name of your podcast then?
It's called Investing for Beginners.
That's pretty easy to remember.
How did you come up with that name?
Yeah.
So, and you were a personal banker with one of the large firms for a period of time, and is this your full-time gig now?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I worked for Wells Fargo for about 5 years as a banker, and now this is what I do for a living.
And what's a personal, by the way, because I've heard this personal bank. I was at someone's party in there, and I was sitting next to him. I'm like, how do you know the host? And they're like, well, I'm his personal banker. And I'm like, what does a personal banker do?
Basically, at Wells Fargo, I can't speak for other banks, but at Wells Fargo, I was basically the one responsible for helping people open accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts, credit cards, managing their money, doing budgeting, all those kinds of things. So anything beyond the teller aspect, they would send us to the bankers. If you lost your debit card, you come see me. If you needed to open a checking account for your son, you came to see me.
Did you have quotas?
Yes.
Okay.
At Wells Fargo.
Well, he's not with Wells Fargo anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
so quotas.
I started there right at the end of the whole crisis. That the account opening crap, and so I was there for about a year when that all went down. And yes, prior to that, that year prior, yes, we had quotas every day. We had, certain, they called them solutions. So we had to get 7 solutions a day. And that included opening a debit card to credit cards to
solution
and so on. So,
for the bank, not a solution for the customer. Yeah.
So look, this is aside. We're going to get to your podcast, and we're probably going to run long on this. So if you're listening on terrestrial radio, you can subscribe to our podcast. So if I may, let's spend a minute. I know this is, but I'm fascinated. Scott,
please.
So the idea behind this was, here's your quota. We don't care what happens. Maybe we should get legal in the room. But these are just your experiences, right? It was a solution, and a solution always involved more product.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
When in fact, the solution probably some of the time should have been less product, correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's actually what got me in trouble with the bank, was because I came from the restaurant business. I had been doing that for like 20 years. And so customer service was in my blood, right? And when I would have people sit down at my desk, I would look at them as a fiduciary. My job is to do what's best for them, not for the bank. And so sometimes that got me in trouble because I wouldn't encourage people to open a useless savings account, for example, or I wouldn't have them do online banking if they didn't have a computer.
Okay.
Just like I was trying to look out for the customer, and that didn't always go over well with my managers.
And the reason Wells Fargo and many of these banks wanted it is so that their metrics looked good, not necessarily that it would feed into the bottom line. It's that they could show to Wall Street or analysts what their metrics were, not what their profitability was. In fact, some of the solutions were probably less than profitable, but were cost centers to your organization, but they fed the metrics. And so I talked about it, was this show or earlier, the other show about this movie, about MoviePass, where the whole business was built around metrics to show Wall Street, and nothing about profitability or client satisfaction. So, by the way, thank you for your explanation as a personal banker. Now I understand / sales guy person.
So how did you get involved with how did the podcast get started?
So the podcast started actually because of all the things we were just talking about. Because I wasn't following the roadmap that the bank wanted, I wanted to be an investment banker. I worked with an investment banker in a branch. I really liked him. He kind of helped start me down this path, and that's what I wanted to do. And they wouldn't promote me because I didn't have enough sales. I wasn't selling enough solutions. And so I started a blog on the side. And then through that, I met my podcasting partner, Andrew, and that's how we ended up starting the podcast.
And how long have you been doing the podcast now?
What's that?
How long have you been doing the podcast?
We've been doing it for a little over 7 years now.
Okay.
Wow.
And so, my question for you then, so Dave, like our people listen to our program, most of them are nearing retirement. They tend to they're pretty far down the path as far as saving and investing, and they tend to be a little more sophisticated than the average person. That's why they're listening to our program. What's the typical kind of person who listens to your podcast, and what's a kind of give us an example of some of the questions you get on a regular basis?
And then tell us your three favorite meme stocks.
I'm guessing that's not. Should I start with the meme stock? So the age range that listens to our show is actually pretty wide, but the two most, I guess, popular age groups are 18 to 25 and 35 to 50. And so the millennials aren't really part of our listening group, which is kind of interesting because my co-host Andrew is a millennial. And I'm on the older end of the spectrum. So we get two kind of levels, and the younger crowd is they want to start investing. So where do I start? What do I do? What kinds of things should I buy? How do I diversify? How do I find different companies to invest in? Should I invest in index funds or should I buy stocks? What do you think of Bitcoin? Questions like that. And then the older, I guess, not generation, but the older grouping are more concerned with, how do I build a portfolio? How do I generate income from the portfolio? How do I build up a portfolio that I can live on after I retire? What kinds of decisions should I make as I get closer to retirement? So those are the kinds of questions that we get, kind of ranging between the two of them. And then I guess the three big meme stocks, of course, are GameStop, AMC, and you could say Snapchat has always been kind of one of our personal whipping dogs. But those are kind of the main ones. And I actually invested in GameStop prior to the whole meme stock.
Oh, really?
Oh, you did?
It was a value investor, trap, if you will, because they paid a really high dividend. They had a huge yield, and this was way before the meme stock thing became a thing.
And did you get out when the meme stock started?
I got out before that.
Got it.
I had already lost my shirt before that. So
okay, perfect. Perfect.
And you guys cover things such as how much mortgage someone could afford, and how to get out of debt, and what's the difference between a 401k and a Roth?
We do cover some of that stuff. We don't do a lot of personal finance related topics. Every once in a while, people will ask us during the height of the meme stock thing. We were getting a ton of questions about, should I refinance my house and put our money in the stock market? We got a lot of questions about that, and every single one of them we told no.
Yeah.
Please God, no.
Well, it's interesting because I think about younger investors today, whether it's Robinhood or Fidelity is big in that space with a lot of younger investors, and it's kind of like, I'm going to pick on Robinhood for a minute, right? Because their whole app is it's
gamified.
Yes, which may or may not help you with wise investment decisions.
Yes, for sure. And we have not been fans of that, to be honest with you. We have bashed on them a little bit. We don't talk about brokerages a whole lot, but that one in particular is one that we give special attention to, just because of what you guys were saying, the gamifying of it. And it makes buying stocks too much of a game, and it's not a game.
Yeah. And anything that they actually say democratization of,
watch out.
Just anyway, anytime a company says that it's a democratization of a particular industry, it always scares me a little bit, because what they're basically saying is, we're making this so easy to use and free that you should be it. But the reality is, if you look where their income stream comes from in Robinhood, it's
order flow.
It's order flow.
Yeah, they will need trades.
Yes,
not buy and hold.
That's right. In fact, their model doesn't work for buy and hold investors.
They'll be shut down quickly.
Yes.
No, it definitely doesn't. And I always go back to that. There was a scene in Jurassic Park where one of the scientists is saying, we never, when we thought about whether we could build, create the dinosaurs, we never asked if we should. And when I think of a company like Robinhood, should making investing or trading stocks easier, is that really a good idea?
Yeah.
And that's
my beef with
I
them
go back
too.
to it.
That's my beef with them too. I don't quite get it. But obviously, you have. I mean, from the younger generation, that's their. I mean, my daughter has a Robinhood account.
2 of my children do.
So, what are your bigger concerns you have with dealing with beginning investors?
Probably, I think the hardest thing is, number one, is feeling like there's this social media puts a lot of pressure, I think, on younger people to be rich fast. And investing is not a good get quick rich scheme. And that's, Andrew and I have really been promoting that for 7 years, that the best way to get wealthy is to build it up over time and to invest patiently, consistently over a long period of time, and that will add up. And the compounding snowball will take effect. And social media tells you the exact opposite. And so I think the younger generation struggle with the message they hear from us. They think, yeah, that's rational, that's logical, that makes a lot of sense. But then they see all their friends on social media driving, Teslas and talking about Bitcoin and all the money that they make. And so I think they get conflicted about what is the right way to do it. And everybody's in a hurry to get to the end destination. And it just doesn't work that way. And if you look at the history of the wealthiest people in the world, they've all owned businesses, whether they built them themselves or whether they're in the stock market. And so I just think that people struggle, the younger generation struggle with, how do I get started? How do I follow the advice of a Warren Buffett and a Charlie Munger and still, be able to post on LinkedIn or on Instagram about my success?
And do you find that a lot of times people come to you after they've made some mistakes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing like a personal experience for education.
Just, when before I started in the business, it just reminds me of the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And what was the barber one, the millionaire barber?
Yeah.
Right. Which is, and I remember when I started in the business 34 years ago, the statistic that the number of millionaires that owned dry cleaners was just like off the chart, right? That's when actually people wore suits and went to offices. But it was as Thomas Stanley said, the millionaire next door, the one that actually did it slowly.
That's right.
Over time, nothing, no big hat, little cattle, none of that stuff, right? Which is not the environment in which we live today. Showing excess wealth is rewarded.
Right.
And you've got to,
and even if it's not actual, real.
Correct. Yeah. You get rewarded to be ostentatious.
Right. Social media, I think
it's not helpful.
No, I have a feeling it'll be interesting to see another decade from now.
What happens?
Yeah. My daughter's going to 8th grade. She today, just finishing her last days of school. And we've waited till 8th grade to give her a phone. She is the last. She says she doesn't have any friends that don't have phones. She's the last one that she knows.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, okay. right. I don't want you sitting there at 2 a.m. looking to see how many likes you got on your post.
When my kids were there, they said their friends would ask them, "Can't your parents afford to buy you a phone?"
There was a gal at the church youth group, who gave her my daughter one of her phones. She came up. I'm like, that
wasn't the point.
That's right.
That wasn't the point. Well, it's interesting. So, last question for you. Obviously, you're getting some satisfaction. Like, share a couple success stories, or like what really gets you up in the morning to do this, and what keeps you up late at night. Worrying about the people you're talking to, right? Because there's, if you're invested in anything, you've got those two things going on: the things that get you up in the morning, and the things that keep you up at night.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing that Andrew and I get the most satisfaction from is the emails and the text messages or the social media messages we get from people that we've helped, people that were struggling to start getting invested or didn't have a plan or a path. and really wanted to do this, whether it was buying individual stocks or whether it was investing in index funds, that they just didn't know where to start and they needed some encouragement. And I think when we've had those messages, we've had people come on the show and we've interviewed them, and that's been very, very enlightening, and it's also been very gratifying for us. So that helps me get up in the morning and get excited about this, because I know that we're helping. Even if I help one person, that's one better person out there. So it doesn't have to be, I'm not going to help, the whole country of the United States, but if I can help one person at a time, then I feel like I'm making an impact. And Andrew feels the same way. So that's very encouraging. I guess on the negative side of it is, I think about all the people out there. When I worked at the bank, I saw this on a day-to-day basis, and I still feel like there's so many more people to help, is people coming to me going, I'm building credit because I'm using my debit card. Or what do you mean I don't have any money in my account? I still have checks. Just those kinds of questions I got every day. And that's why I do this. And I just think there's such a lack of financial education out there, especially in the, Scott was talking about his 8th grade daughter. I mean, I have a daughter that's going into 7th grade, and they've taught her nothing about money. She's learning everything from her mom and I. And am I teaching her enough? I don't know. But I mean, I think those are the things that keep me up at night. That's what stresses me out is the lack of education, and just how much pain and suffering is caused because people don't know what they're doing when they go out into the world.
All right. And so are you, final question before we go. Why do you believe that there isn't an emphasis in the U.S. educational system on personal finance in the classroom pre 12th grade?
That's a great question. My outside opinion is that there's no incentive from the government or from the financial center to educate these people. And I think that there's just not, and there's probably also not a coherent discussion about what exactly. I think there's a lot of there's still a lot of debate on how
what
exactly
is it a stock? Yeah, that's right. Because a finance class might be a stock game.
Oh, that's right.
Or it might be how credit cards actually work.
Yes.
And why, how they will own you if you're not careful.
Yes.
Right. Well, and to go back to Wells Fargo for just a second, it's in Wells Fargo's best interest, unfortunately, or any bank, for you to not understand how a credit card works and to rack up a big bill and then pay them a lot of interest for 20 years to buy that Xbox.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, hey, appreciate you being with us again. It was Dave Ahern of the Investing for Beginners podcast, which forward this on to people in your life that you think you're good at.
Young people that are starting out, or people that are midlife that are starting out.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate you.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad we had him on. Anyway, that is all the time we had in today's program. Enjoy the rest of your week, whatever it is. We'll see you next week. This has been Scott Hansen, Pat McLean, Allworth's Money Matters.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.